Good evening and welcome to the June 15th, 2023 meeting of the City of Highland Park Zoning Board of Appeals. Carl, may we get a roll call?
Here.
Member Beck,
Here.
Member Yavlon,
Here.
Duransky,
Here.
Member Hendrick, absent. Vice Chair Bay.
Here.
Oliver,
Here.
there's 4 present, there are 6 members present, and I'd just like to present, and for the staff, we have Upper Senior Planner.
Thank you. Our first items are the approval of the minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the May 18th, 2023 minutes?
Yes, I have.
I will note that I was not present at that meeting, but I have watched the video, including the legal training. Oh, what fun. And so therefore, I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Member Yablon seconds.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. So now we move to the June 1st, 2023 minutes. I'll entertain a motion for that one as well.
I would make a motion to approve those as well.
Member Trushansky seconds the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. Carl, remind me, the date of new business, it's not on the agenda.
No, it's not, and that's by intent. That's
Okay.
not an accident. As I'm training Patrick, it's just a chance to question and think about everything. It's a chance to improve processes. I checked with our corporation counsel, and I'm like, do we actually need this on here? We don't have it for any of the PDC club.
Okay, so we don't need it.
And so I cut it because I feel like it's just something that, when it's not legally needed or required, it's just something that, make a
Okay,
mistake.
well, hey, I'm observant, I noticed.
Yes, thank you for noticing.
Is there any business from the public other than the item that's on our agenda? Not seeing anybody other than the applicants. There is no old business. New business is 2023-VAR-009, the property at 343 Beach Street. The appellant are Lawrence and Carissa Coons. Carl, do you have a presentation for us this evening?
Yes, I do, thank you. Thank you, everybody. I'm Carl Burhop, Senior Planner with the City of Highland Park, Planning Division, Community Development Department. So this is a presentation for the 343 Beach Street application, 2023-VAR-009. So this is the location of the property. Actually, just kind of, well, where I'm from, we call that kitty corner, but I believe that's kitty corner from the house that's famous for the Ferris Bueller movie. So this is like kind of central Highland Park.
You know, when we dealt with that case, we weren't allowed to reference the movie. When they put in their subterranean garage, it was all about the house, but we couldn't mention that feature.
Well, fortunately,
They
this
built
is
the
not.
garage around the house, the Ferrari that they crashed?
They built it underneath, there was an old structure that they were taking down, and they put in a subterranean garage.
Well, I hope I didn't say something wrong by just referencing it. Fortunately, this isn't that application.
Okay,
So
back to you, Carl.
Yes, so the applicants are Larry and Carissa Coons. The proposal is a play set. I'll point out it's already been installed. I have some comments on that. My report also discussed that. This is in the R5 zoning district. The property meets the minimum lot size. It's larger than that. According to the county assessor, it's a 1913 home. The requested relief, there are 2 requests. Encroach within the required front yard and then to encroach within the steep slope zone. So this is an aerial of the property. The lot is irregular in shape. It is 5-sided, and the lot lines do not meet at or near 90-degree angles. And the lot depth is actually less than 125 feet. At the max point, I can't remember. At the max point, it might meet that, but if you average them, they do not. So the lot is irregular and non-conforming with respect to those requirements. This is the applicant's survey they submitted, and they use it as a site plan. So they indicated the proposed the existing and proposed location of the place set. So this is a zoom in, and I will just point out, which slide should I go to first? Actually, let's go to the steep slope zone. So first of all, I do want to point out, first of all, yeah, the place set's already been installed. How we got here is not necessarily important, but I do wish to provide some context on that real quickly, though I always want to remind the board whether you think an actor is a good actor or you think an actor is a bad actor, what matters are the 8 standards of approval. That's what matters, and that's how the board should make their decision. Having said that, I do actually want to point out that the applicants, I'll call them their team, if I remember correctly, it might have been the grandmother, but they asked a lot of questions, and they actually tried really hard to work with the city to perform due diligence to make sure they were putting in the right spot. And I don't think the city necessarily made a mistake either, because I went through, it was Kelsey and myself who were involved in this. I don't necessarily think the city made a mistake either. Honestly, I think it was just kind of a weird situation. Though I will say, the city did provide this purple shaded graphic to the applicant, and I got to tell you, we really got to be more careful when we provide this, because this is not actually a steep slope zone exhibit. What it is, this purple shade indicates a 10% grade area that's indicative of the steep slope area, but the steep slope zone is going to be all the purple shade plus a 10-foot setback in addition to it, and everything within. And so I won't speak for the applicant, I'll let them speak for themselves, but the location of the place set is approximately this location, and I speculate that the applicants thought they were locating it outside of the steep slope zone because it's kind of a flat area within the ravine.
So, Carl,
Yes.
if there's a 10-foot setback on top of that purple shaded area, it looks pretty much like the whole area is steep slope zone.
So then that comes back to my next slide then. Where could the applicant put the place set that would actually comply with code? So this is a plat of survey the applicant provided. This is not a topographic survey, so we can't know for sure if the top of slope is right on here, but it says, this red line here is the top of slope. In addition to that, there would be another 10 feet, and then that's where you have the steep slope zone. The place set would not be allowed to go in any of that area by code. The place set would also not be allowed to go anywhere within this front 40-foot setback. And then I get worried. I get worried about dimensioning stuff on here because I get worried if I'm off a little bit and then it will skew the conversation. There's a 9-foot setback along the east here where they also wouldn't be able to put it. Technically, there is a rear yard. And you can put a place set in a rear yard. I mean, you can see on the survey, given the existing home's location, I think that reads something like a 15-point setback, 15-point some foot setback, and I believe the place set that they would like and chose was a 16 by 22, roughly in its footprint. Yeah, I just present the facts though, so the applicant can certainly discuss if it would be reasonable for them to locate it somewhere else on the property. But that gives you an idea that, if there is a space, it's limited. Let's see, what else? So this is the footprint plan, 22 foot by 16 feet. Doesn't actually take up all that square footage. The footprint's smaller than that, obviously, but that's just the dimensions. Then the applicant indicates it's not higher than 13.5 feet, so that complies with the accessory height limit. These are the photos the applicant provided. I know that the forester pointed out these pavers, and I did talk to the applicant about it, and those pavers are meant to be removed. That's not meant to be a patio. The applicant indicates they're going to remove those, and in fact, the relief is not for a patio, so that would not be allowed. I took this photo from Google to try to give an idea. Technically, their home is the one looking down this driveway here to the left. It's hard to get a good photo when there's, when it's summer, because the foliage is full. The tree canopy is full. These are photos the applicant provided. Just from a staff point of view, I'll point out that I looked at both of these addresses, and I did not find a variation on file for either. Actually, I did find a variation on file for the St. John's one, but it had nothing to do with this improvement. It had to do with the subdivision from the 1960s. Forestry. Forestry, they state they object. Their reasons are listed in the packet. If there are questions for me on that, I can attempt to answer them, but I'll let Forestry's words speak for themselves. Building division. I did confirm no permit is required for this play set, and that's kind of one of the reasons. Again, when I looked at the applicant providing, they provided questions to us. They asked us about the location. Staff tried to provide a response. Well, ultimately, a permit wasn't required, and so there was no formal approval process for this. So that's kind of explains how we got to this situation. The engineering division does not have concerns for this. They do not object, and they indicate that the section 150.1907 submission requirements are not triggered or required for this type of improvement because there's no permit that's needed for it. And this was reviewed again by our building division staff, our engineering division staff, and of course our planning division staff. Public comments, there were one set of comments in the packet. Hopefully the board had a chance to read those. I'm always careful on paraphrasing or having hearsay for someone else's comments. I think broadly it was a comment that was in favor of this. Nothing was submitted post-packet, so there's nothing to discuss there. And then this is the relief requested. So to encroach within the steep slope zone by that footprint area with a 22-foot by 16-foot area of encroachment for the play set, then to encroach 4 feet within the 40-foot front yard setback. Yes. And then again, this is a Chapter 150 zoning code relief request. So I can take questions if there are any.
Carol, if there's no permit required, what is it that triggers their being here?
Oh, well, it still has to meet zoning code. It's because it's still a structure. It's still a structure based on the zoning code requirements.
Who's the enforcement branch that said you need to get a variation?
There's
no.
Well, that's technically the zoning administrator, the director. It still has to meet. Some cities resolve this by requiring separate zoning certificates or a letter of non-objection. This is one of these things that happens occasionally, but doesn't happen that often. So we don't have that here. We don't have a zoning certificate or a letter of non-objection, but it still has to meet the zoning. There's just not
as
a.
a practical matter, how did the city become involved in saying you put a swing set somewhere it shouldn't be? Who was it that
Well, there was a complaint, so the city had to inspect it, and the city found that there was a structure that was in the steep slope zone, and this type of structure is not allowed in that
was
location.
inspected as a result of that?
Correct.
Fair.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. That's more context to how we arrived here.
And if we were to approve the variance would be for a structure at that location in perpetuity.
That is correct.
Would there be limitations on that structure? Could we approve it only for a swing set, or does it have to be approved for any structure that otherwise complies with building code?
Yeah, it says in the draft approval order, it uses the word play set. It limits it to a height of 13.5 feet and a footprint of 22 by 16 feet. And then the draft approval order also includes the site plan that they propose, and then it also includes the footprint as well. So theoretically, if this were to degrade and they wanted to replace it, it'd have to be substantially similar to that. At the training a few weeks ago, it briefly touched upon the idea of whether or not you could put a limit or a constraint on how long a variation
sunset clause?
went. I mean, the board could probably consider that if they wanted. You know, that's not in our standard template in our approval order, but that doesn't mean the board can't consider those types of things. If the board does impose any conditions like that, though, my recommendation is that the board does ask the applicant if they're in agreement or not. If the applicant's in agreement, that's fine. If the applicant's not in agreement, then my recommendation would be to continue to get a second opinion on the condition.
Any other questions for Carl? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ma'am, do you want to come speak for yourself? You'll step to the microphone podium. And please provide your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Carissa Coons. Address is 343 Beach Street, Island Park, 005.
Thank you. Do you hereby affirm or attest that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I believe I have to reply verbally. Standard.
If you could just speak more into the microphone?
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, my voice is soft, sorry. So as you saw in the letter, I'll just state, you know, our playset was just installed. My grandmother, their great grandmother, did a lot of work to try to install it for their enjoyment. So it wasn't for a return of value by any means, but it would, you know, significantly diminish our living on the property because as you saw, all we have is steep slope. So it just greatly enhances our quality of life and allows them a little bit of playing area. The installation of the playset was designed to accommodate that unique topography of the property. My grandmother put a lot of money into it too, so it would be a financial, you know, loss for her. We really, as Carl mentioned, made a sincere effort to make sure that it was in accordance with the city's steep slope zone regulations. Third, the playset was thoughtfully researched. We wanted to make sure that it, you know, fit with the aesthetic of the ravine, and also that it would fit within the existing landscape. So as Carl mentioned, that is the only flat spot there within the steep slope zone. And it really is the safest, I would say, as well, because even if we were to put it in the front yard there with that 40-foot encroachment, that variation, it's actually pretty unlevel, and also it puts the kids close to the street, which is just unsafe. So it keeps them away from the street as well. Let's see here. So the hardship, obviously, of the property itself and the topography wasn't created by our family. The house was just constructed there, so nothing was changed. The playset, again, it's not materially detrimental to the public welfare. It doesn't encroach on any other properties. It doesn't invade any other properties. It's really located a significant distance away. It's really pretty small, the footprint itself. It's visually unintrusive. With the foliage, as you saw, our property, you can barely see anything. You can't even see our house for the most part. And so it also, let's see here, it also isn't any different than, you know, any of the other homes that we see in the neighborhood as well. It's a common feature. So in addition to enhancing the overall livability of the property, it really doesn't pose a significant risk, and I can talk to some of the forester's comments on that if that's helpful. But, you know, those pavers were there. We want them moved. We don't want pavers there for our kids to play around. And, you know, we didn't remove any vegetation. All of that's still there. The playset is just there. The kids, yes, there is foot traffic, but I'll tell you that they run around anyways. And so it actually maybe arguably would be better because they're on top of a structure as opposed to just running around and trampling that area. Let's see. I think that's the gist of it. We were really just trying to be as mindful as possible in the location and what we were putting there for them to play on. So I guess I will conclude there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Does your husband wish to speak, just so we know?
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure, and there's nobody else present, so are there any questions for the applicant?
You did mention that you would address the comments from the city forestry, specifically about the possibility of erosion and the impact that could conceivably have on the ecosystem.
Yeah, so you saw the picture of the structure. I mean, water still flows through as it naturally would, sunlight, there's still vegetation there. The kids, I don't know if with the erosion he was speaking to the kids, the foot traffic, but again, I mean, the kids are going to be going down there anyways. It's a flat place for them to play. So whether that's there or not, there's going to be a little bit of foot traffic from the kids. And I think that was just the major point there. The pavers are a moot point. Larry, was there anything else?
Sir, if you could just, one, come up to the microphone, and two, give us your name and address for the record.
This is Larry Coons, co-owner of 343 Beach Street.
Do you hereby affirm or attest that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Now you may go.
Okay, thank you.
You missed that part. You
I
had stepped out.
Thank you, Margot. And that's Margot. She also agrees. Just in regards to the erosion, I didn't have a chance to get the photo uploaded in time because it was taken into a long time ago. But if you're looking from the ravine up, the main spot for flow of water, because we are strictly downhill from everybody, is actually closest to the sidewalk. And there's a nice trench where water you see does flow. Little comes off that side where the place set is, and it actually pools up underneath there prior to even the place set being installed. So it's the lowest point we have, and everything tends to go, again, closest to the sidewalk, closest to the bridge. So, again, as far as erosion goes, it's off to the other side. It's flowed.
Do you have any idea why the forestry would state, moreover, the compaction caused by material storage pavers shown in the site photos? Self-associated will inhibit the growth of vegetation, exacerbates disturbance. Lowest point, I wouldn't think that was an issue. It seems forestry's big.
Yes.
Okay. So my understanding is from the comments, it just looks like the forester was looking at photos and not the actual land. And so maybe at the time the photos were taken, I mean, it was March. There was no vegetation there at all. So I don't know if it looked like there was just erosion from the kids playing or what. I don't know.
And can I make one comment?
Yes, Carl.
Well, so the pavers, the pavers are shown in that photo.
Oh.
And the city forester saw that photo. I'm not actually sure the forester is aware that those pavers are meant to be removed. I just wanted to comment on that.
That's fine.
So, and I'm not here to change, obviously, anything the forester said, except for the extent it's limited to the pavers, I make that comment on the pavers.
Okay, and you don't know if the forester actually went out and observed?
No, I do not know that, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
It looks like the pavers were not installed. They were just kind of bundled off to the
They're
side.
actually going on free box, so if anyone wants
Yeah.
to, by all means, I'll be loaded.
There's a site called Free Cycle in Highland Park. Go for it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and actually we had to have a bunch, like there were cement footings that were in that space before we even moved in. And so we had to have those removed. And so we're just trying to get rid of all of that stuff that was there. Sorry.
Member Yablon.
First of all, it's great your kids are here. No problem with that. You don't have to apologize.
Thank you.
So I'm just looking at the playset itself and the side that has the swings on it. I'm used to seeing a bar at the bottom, like that.
Goes across.
Yeah, like that, and it looks like there's one on the other side that does.
Yeah. I mean, they signed off on it, the builder did, and didn't mention anything to us that there was anything. It looks like the tree might be in the way, but they signed off on it being safe.
Okay.
Was that the question?
Yeah, kind
Okay.
of like I was just like if that was going to be installed at a later date or this is good to go.
Good to go. Yeah, they have to do a safety inspection, and we're not moving any trees. The only tree that was moved, it was dead, so we had that removed.
Any other questions?
One-
I'm sorry.
One thing that
Member Beck?
One thing that the chair brought up if we grant this variation, does that mean that this structure be in perpetuity, a structure be in site? Would you be open to us ending that if this deteriorated, it could only be replaced with a playset? Just a
Yeah. I wanted to make sure we didn't get the playhouse that we had to have removed in the other case.
or the big garage addition that,
Right,
Oh, yeah.
exactly.
right?
Oh, that's
So
a great
that-
place.
But Carl said that we should ask you if you were open to amending it.
Yeah, we have no intention of anything else going there, so that would be,
No big glass.
no tiny
No,
home.
no tiny homes, no big lots,
Yeah.
no,
No Porsche going into a
Yeah,
ravine.
no.
yeah, I'm not, I don't have skills to drywall it and make it a small office for myself either, so terrified of electric. So,
I would actually take it a step further and ask if you would agree there was a problem relating to erosion or something that was obviously caused in this area, whether you would agree to address it properly, and hire an engineer or whatever had to be done to fix.
Yeah, definitely, because I mean, as you know, property owners in the ravine, that's important to us too, so yeah.
Carl, you have any problem with adding a condition to, like that in the order if they were to agree to it?
Sure, what was the condition again? Something related
That
to-
they would properly address any issues that might arise as a result of what the forester brings up, that there's conceivably possibly erosion or.
Yeah, no, staff doesn't have it. I mean, since the structure's already there in the, not waiting. You, staff. Sometimes the or period, no matter of customer service, staff ready to get going with it.
Okay.
Proposing that we continue the case, the amendments. Then.
Yes, that would be my recommendation. If you want any amendments, staff will bring back a revised order in 3 weeks to the July 6th meeting.
I think in fairness, we should probably give some indication of our.
Yes, Member Zaransky wanted to say
Limited,
something.
I just this is a question for Carl. The applicants, I think they submitted these pictures of there's 2 play sets in the area. It's in your staff report, but I think the applicant, I don't know if I missed this or not. Were there variations on file for those 2?
No, sir, not for place set structure. No, and I did check that.
Okay. Even though they presumably are in the steep slope zone
The
also?
one on the right, it's almost for sure in the
Right.
zone. And the one on the left probably is, but I don't know for sure. That one's kind of harder to.
Yeah, I mean, it's strange the city has no lever to protect people from putting play sets in the ravine, but I guess it's one of those things.
Well, again, the code still applies. It's just they don't need a permit for it. But I mean, most people do ask the city, like these residents did as well. Most people do ask the city. It's just oftentimes we don't get weird situations where you have weird splashes of no grade change. Normally we have situations where it's all purple that's much more clear, and I think that contributes, in my opinion, that contributes to part of.
Understood, thank you.
Any other questions? Not seeing any.
Can I?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I did visit the site and took a lot of photographs and want to say that from what I could see, there wasn't a lot of ground cover elsewhere in the ravine. It isn't just that area, and and I know I'm not supposed to do this drive.
You're a policymaker. You're allowed to drive by. We are not allowed to drive by.
Just that there's no foundation. The report said it's just rebar securing it. It's in a pretty flat, area. Other properties can't. I mean, you can see it, but it's not in sight lines. I just thought to share that I'd seen it myself, and it doesn't seem like I've seen bigger risks in Highland Park, the ravines, than this. But those are just my 2 cents.
Thank you. Well, I will begin with Member Beck.
So I
You
have no,
look tanned and relaxed.
I'm not relaxed and I'm certainly not tan.
Okay.
I have no objection to this. I think there's a clear hardship to the steep slope, if there's anywhere else to put it. I guess the additional hardship, I think, clear information. So I guess that's kind of on us as a city. So would vote to grant this variation with the caveat about perpetuity, about this structure, and then Member Bay's codicil up erosion being a.
Thank you. Member Zuransky?
I too agree. I think I agree with the hardship being met for basically same exact reasons as Mr. Beck. And I too agree, and I think the board did a great job of making suggestions to the approval order that would make everyone a little bit more comfortable with the situation. So if it came back with that, those changes, I would have no problem approving the variance.
Thank you. Member Trushansky?
I don't really have anything more to add than what Member Beck and Member Zuransky said. I agree with allowing this and am in favor in amending the order to address everyone's concerns.
Thank you. Member Yablon?
I'm in agreement with my fellow board members and believe that the standards have been met.
Thank you. Vice Chair Bay?
I too agree. I will add that I think bringing the children to the meeting was a very nice touch. It's kind of like making us seem like we'd have to take an ice cream cone away from them at this point if we were not.
That would be a frozen yogurt cone,
sir.
sir.
Thank you. So, having said that, I think we can look at the standards in a manner in which I believe we can say they've been met, and with the 2 conditions, and probably following Carl's advice to continue it just for the purpose of revising the draft order.
Thank you. And I agree with my colleagues. I want to first thank staff, and I want to thank the Coonses for your presentations this evening. This is obviously a property that it's actually amazing that there's a spot for the house. Just because of the slope, when you see how close it is, that purple line is to the structure. Under today's standards, I'm not sure you'd be there. The fact is the place that is by the time your kids graduate from high school, which isn't that far, I hate to tell you that, it may get swung on occasion, but so I believe that the life of the set or something like that is reasonable. And I'm thankful that you're amenable to the should there be an erosion issue caused by the play set, that you would, look into remediating, just as, ensuring that the health of the ravine. So with that,
I have a couple. I
yes.
apologize.
Councilor member, your turn.
2 questions. One is, there was a letter in support of the application, and I assume you've talked to other neighbors as well. That was one question. Great. And the second one was just an understanding of, just a repetition of what you said about if the place degrades, if they wanted to replace it, or a future owner wanted to replace it. Can you remind me of what they would have to do?
Can I respond?
Yes, sir.
Well,
Carl.
actually, I have a question about that myself. So there's one condition, should an erosion issue be caused by the place that is identified by the city, the applicant or property owner will remediate it. But that was essentially one of the conditions.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes.
Now the other one, yes, let's talk about the other one real quick, because that gets us to council member question as well.
I'll let one of my colleagues, would one of you like to address it?
I took it to mean that we would be approving, the draft order would be amended to approve it for the existing structure only.
Okay.
And if there were ever needed to be any changes, repairs, additions, any alteration whatsoever, they would have to again come before us.
If they wanted to, replace or expand. Repair is fine, because you can repair a fence.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay,
right,
so,
yeah,
if they were to replace the
it's bricks, you
existing,
can fix it.
right.
But they can't add on the, some fancy accessory.
The same footprint, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
substantially alter the existing structure.
Okay.
Put on the office extension for dad.
Yeah.
So was that second condition then something related to cannot substantially alter or add on or replace that which is there right now if approved? Is that correct? So the sunset clause on it, there's not necessarily a year limit, just it can't be replaced. Am I understanding that?
So if it had to be replaced, he would have to come back for another
Yes.
variation.
Are the applicants fine with that?
Absolutely.
We need to ask them if they're okay with continuing this.
Are you okay if we continue so that staff has time to formally draft?
Yeah.
Okay,
Usually you are.
we do. That's fine. Thank you.
Well, then my response then to the council member question would be, in this instance, given the, well, there hasn't been a motion yet, but if in this instance, if that becomes part of the motion and the adoption, then in this case, they would not be able to replace it if it was intentionally removed or degraded or fell apart. I guess the non-conforming regulations still apply. If a tree fell on it, probably replace it, but if it's intentionally removed, in this case, they would replace it. Or with other variations, something is just that specifically, that's true.
Yeah, I was concerned about perpetuity. I mean, yeah, and I feel like,
Thank you. In that case,
I guess do we have business at the next meeting, or would it be?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
July 6th. Oh, yes. I think there's 2 applications for that?
Wait, you entertain the motion.
I will entertain a motion.
I would make a motion to continue this matter for revising the order until the next meeting.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. We'll do a roll call when you're ready, Carl.
Okay, the motion was by Member Bain. Who's the second? Was it?
Zaransky.
And that was a motion to continue this to the July 6th meeting. Staff, of course, will revise the order and re-present it for adoption.
Yes.
Okay, so Member Trashansky. Aye. Member Beck.
Aye.
Member Yablon.
Aye.
Member Zaransky.
Aye.
Member Hendrick is absent. Vice Chair Bay.
Aye.
Chair Cullither.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes 5.
Yes. Thank you. You have a good evening, kids. This is an introduction to American government. You passed your class?
You're exempt from civics now?
No, no.
No.
Thank you. Carl, is there a staff report?
No, other than we were going to inform you that there were 2 items, new items for the July 6th meeting, and then I was also going to inform you, but noticed and pointed out, we made the slight alteration to the agenda.
Thank you. That bring.
Can I say
yes.
one question?
Yes, miscellaneous.
Miscellaneous, so, sorry, I went out of turn. But, just out of curiosity, I know this kind of flares up every now and then, and it kind of flared up about a month ago pretty aggressively, but what's the real reason why, like, a field trip or a site visit's so forbidden? Like, assuming, like, a member stays on the public right away or just drive, like, why is that an issue? I don't,
It was covered in the legal training.
I know, and then,
So we can only act on information that's presented here at the
Okay.
meeting.
got
And
it.
so going off on your own to look at the site, that's not in the record.
Understood, but looking on Google Images or is kind of the same sort of thing.
Well, technically, you being on your phone is discoverable.
Explain that.
If you were texting during the meeting and a member of the public decided to appeal this order to whatever, any communications you're having on your phone during the meeting can be subject to discovery, so that they know that you're not texting with member Trushansky at the other end of the table.
They could file a FOIA request and get
Yes.
all your information.
So if you were Googling during the meeting, but if you Google at home,
Right, that they can't, right.
And to further address your point, to put it in legalese, I think anything that is brought before this board is supposed to be viewed de novo, meaning like from the beginning, like you know nothing about it. Again, as Member Beck said, you know, the only thing you're going to base your decision on is what's presented in front of you.
Understood.
And if there's an appeal, the only thing that can be presented to the appeal is what presented here. So then it goes to due.
I was not aware of that.
That is true for the zoning
Right.
board,
And so
because
it's
we're,
not-
because we're quasi judicial.
Yeah.
Okay, but for city council, it's different, because you're a legislative branch.
And also I'm not voting,
Correct.
and
How about for a city council map? You can go by without a problem. I would imagine.
Yeah, they can, they're they're
Got
elected.
it. Understood.
Right.
it does seem a bit nuts that you can't visit the site.
That's the advice of council.
It's not that we can't, we've been encouraged not.
Right. And there are attorneys who have previously served on this board who will tell us, why haven't you gone by?
Yeah, they've done it.
And, but, you know, the city's attorney, Hart Passman, has advised us not to. You know, if we go by it on our normal path, that's one thing. But, you know, we had the gentleman a few weeks ago who thought we had all driven by before the meeting and went down their driveway. And none of us had. The attorney for the applicant had, but none of us had.
Very interesting.
Yes.
I think the biggest concern is, because I know in passing, you know, board members make comments about driving by, and you live in the community. I think the biggest concern is what happens if a board member votes to approve or deny, and they specifically say the reason for it is that they saw something property. Technically, that was something that the public or applicant didn't have the same access to review as you, and that would open the decision to a better path. Over.
Yes.
I think that's the biggest.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible they'd allow a member of the council in to look out the window to see what it looks like, but they didn't allow their neighbor in.
If the board ever thought it was absolutely important that you go to the site, we could always arrange a special app. There's logistics with that, and it takes more time, you're volunteers, but just know that you have that.
And it's publicly noticed and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, and the public can come too, in the public meeting. That's
Right.
never happened in my time here.
We do it?
Yeah, I think we should.
summer outing.
Is there an expense account?
Can you arrange for a variation at the yogurt place? And then people show up there?
I'll file-
No, that would.
I'll file a variation request.
Yeah, you do that. It will end up over plan and design and not us.
Right.
And they're eaters.
Okay. Anything else? I have one last comment, and that is, in case he happens to watch the video, happy anniversary to the Hendricks. It's year number 10, I believe. So that is why he is absent.
I second that. Yeah, happy.
We should put it in, so when he sits there and says he'll watch the video next time of the meeting.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'll send a text.
And with that, I will.
You mentioned during that video, sir.
The code word is orange.
Yes. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I shall make a motion to, we're back.
And Member Yaplon second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? We are adjourned at 8:16 PM. Thank you. Yeah, three. So our house sold, it's under contract. We found a place.